So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you what you get when you buy one of these units, then we'll look at the installation process, and finally we'll test out its features to see how well it actually performs. As always, I have placed a link in the description down below if you'd like to look at this unit further or acquire one for yourself. And starting with the radio head unit, this is a 2DIN size unit. Now if you remember, most older cars came with a radio which is about this thick. Now some newer cars came with a radio head about this size, so that's why they call it 1DIN or 2DIN. And this unit has a ton of outputs in the back. Now as far as power, this can drive 4 speakers at 48 watts each. Now there are additional inputs for a front camera, an additional camera, and a video in unit. If for some reason you still happen to be rocking a DVD player, you can put in a DVD player input right here. And you also have the normal audio outs, and you have a subwoofer out. And going back to the screen is 7 inches in size and it is high resolution. Now I do like that they have provided knobs and simple buttons to switch between the main features. While it's cool to have a touchscreen, having a tactile and not having to look away when you're driving to turn the volume up or down, I think is really important. And this device is powered by a Cortex dual core processor rated at 800 MHz, so it should be pretty snappy. Now let me show you what else you get with this unit. You get a little remote that allows us to control the main functions of the unit, and you also get a little microphone. Now the unit already has a built-in microphone, but sometimes it's convenient to add this microphone because we can bring the microphone closer to us so we can have better phone quality. Now you also get the harness that is gonna connect the unit head to our car. And finally you get an instruction manual which has quite a bit of pictures on here, so it's very visual in its nature and easy to follow. And finally, you get this little frame that goes around the unit. Now this frame may not be needed for some cars. The frame is only required if there is a gap after installing the radio in between the radio and the bezel of the unit. Now let's talk installation. Now you do get the little harness that I showed you earlier, and each wire has been labeled so we know exactly where it should be connected to. This harness is going to be connected to the back of the unit. However, there's going to be an existing wire harness in our car, and that connector will not accept the wires. We're gonna have to cut the connector off on our car and then attach the wires to this wire set. Now that is not ideal because if I want to go back to stock, I have lost the original connector. Also, it just makes it harder for us to do the connections in the car. So normally they recommend that an aftermarket radio is installed with an aftermarket radio install kit, which I'm going to show you now. And here's the Scochet aftermarket installation kit install centric. This makes the installation easier, and also in some cars will provide a cleaner look. And this is what's inside of the kit. Now this kit is not a generic kit, it is specific to the car model I'm installing the radio on. So as you can see, this kit has been designed for 2003 to 2008 Toyota Corolla. Also in the kit you get a wire harness and some crimp splices. Now what are we gonna use this wire harness for? We know that the aftermarket radio already came with the harness. Well, I said earlier that in order for us to connect this to our car means that we're gonna have to cut off the existing connector on our car. So what this does, this comes with a connector that will connect directly to the Corolla connector without having to modify any wires. So all the connections are done in here like this. And once this is all fully connected with the crimp splices, I can just take this to the car and install the radio. Now, crimp splices are a special way of joining wires together. I have a whole video that covers how to do crimp splices. I'll put a link in the description down below if you want to see how crimp splices are made. But before we move to the car, I do want to show you what the splicing looks like when it's completed. I have joined the aftermarket radio harness to the harness that came in the Scochet kit. Now this is going to allow me to plug directly into the harness of the Toyota Corolla. And here's the Ousmin AA Pro Android and CarPlay enabled stereo. Now, first thing you see is Baby Yoda's face in here. What does Baby Yoda have to do with this radio? Well, you can set a custom background, not only for the startup screen, but also the background for the regular interface on here. So I have set Baby Yoda in here because the owner of this car loves Baby Yoda. And you'll also notice that the interface looks like a regular tablet interface, very intuitive. You have the time and the date over here, you have a home button right here, you have a go back button over here, and then you have your apps in the bottom. And the first app is the radio. Let's look at that. As you can see, I have already loaded some presets over here, but if those presets were not enough, we have a second row of presets that can be used. And if that wasn't enough, you have a third row of presets. Now, this being a stereo radio, it does have AM. If for some reason you still like to listen to AM, you have that ability. Now, another thing that I like about the tuning of this radio is this. I can drag my finger on the screen and move or jump to a radio station very quickly, as opposed to pressing on this little thing one by one. Also notice in the bottom we have a shortcut to a commonly used features, for example, the sound. If I wanted to adjust the loudness of the speaker, whether the subwoofer is on, how much power the subwoofer is outputting. And we have some presets for how the sound is played through the speakers. Right now, set to whole, so all 4 speakers are active. But if you look at this preset right here, we can adjust it so it is more pointed or more biased towards the driver. And another preset that I like is the back seat. If for some reason I wanted to have a conversation in the front, most of the sound is going to be sent towards the back, putting emphasis on them more than on the front. But I'm going to return this back to whole. And let's go back with the little arrow to go back. Now we can also go back, as I pointed out earlier, with the home screen. And you'll also see that you'll notice that there's a little dot over here. And this dot, we can drag it anywhere on the screen. What is that little dot? Well, if I tap that little dot, that's a shortcut screen that gives me access to the commonly used functions that you may want to change. So let's look at that. I'm going to click on here. And how about the first one? This allows me to change the brightness of the screen. So as you can see, we can lower and increase the brightness. And also within this menu, we can also access the sound, or we can do this. We can turn off the screen entirely. If for some reason the screen was bothering us, you can turn it off. And you can bring it back on by clicking on the screen one more time. And the next 2 apps are CarPlay and Android Auto. I have Android, so I'm going to select the Android Auto interface. Now you will see that the interface is the same as what you find in a newer car. So it's really neat to be able to have this level of technology on older vehicles. Now the interface is going to be identical. So if you are familiar, or if you already have a newer vehicle, you'll feel completely at home, because all the apps in your phone that are supported by Android Auto are going to be displayed on this device in the same way as if you were on your newer vehicle. For example, on my phone I have Waze, which I use to get directions and also to find out if there's accidents on the road. I have Pandora, I have Amazon Music. I can access my contacts by going to the phone. Now if I don't want to use Android Auto, or if I'm done using it, I can always exit it by hitting the exit button. So it is that easy. Now I do want to show you one more thing that I think is pretty impressive, and that is this. The phone is not connected to the car at all, and as you can see, Android Auto is operating completely wireless. Now this is something that not even my new car has. My new car came with Android Auto, but I have to have a wire plugged in into my car. So this supports wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. So I like that they gave us the newest version of that ability in this stereo. So let's exit out of here so we can see the next thing on this menu. And if for some reason you don't want to use Android Auto, or you don't want to use CarPlay, you can always connect to this device using a standard Bluetooth interface and make phone calls and listen to your music that way. And if you do so, you have a phone app which you could use to interface to your phone. Now the auto link function is quite interesting. If you download an app in your phone, we can mirror the phone screen directly onto this stereo. And let me show you how that looks. And here's what the mirroring looks like. As you can see, all the apps that are being displayed right here. Now it is kind of a tiny screen, so it's not very convenient, but it's pretty cool to be able to use that functionality with that auto link app. Pretty much every single app that's on the phone is showing up on here. It's an identical copy of the phone. I probably won't be using the mirroring function of this radio. I really like the idea of just using Android Auto, since it was specifically designed for you to be able to drive safely while also interfacing to your phone. But it's really neat to see that we do have the ability to mirror if we wanted to. And just for giggles, I tested the YouTube application and you can see that it is working. I'm actually mirroring my device directly into the screen. Now the refresh rate, it looks like it's a little bit slower than what it actually looks on here. So it looks fluid on here, while here I think I see a little bit of slowdown. So you could definitely watch videos on the screen this way. I probably would not recommend it for safety, but the option is there. If you are parked or the car is off, you can definitely put on your YouTube videos. And we can also access files that are in a USB drive. As you can see, I have loaded a USB drive on here, but this port can also be used to charge our phone. But let's look at what's inside of this drive. Now, I have already loaded music and videos on this drive. And as you can see, we have music, and this one I can play for you. Now, the sound from this unit is a lot louder and clearer than what came from stock, especially the bass. Very, very deep bass and clean notes. Now, obviously, it's gonna depend on the stereo system that you have in your car in terms of the speakers, but this has more than enough power where it can get very, very loud. And I'm gonna put a stop to that one right here. And we can also go into the video, and I have placed a small video on here.
How do you like JPL so far?
It's alright.
It's alright? Hanging in there?
A lot of walking.
Is it worth it?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting for a person who doesn't like.
So as you can see, if you wanted to, you could put a movie on here, or like I did, you can put a video clip. So it's very convenient to be able to access files in a USB stick this way. And it doesn't end there, it keeps on going. There is an audio video in. So if you had either a DVD player for some reason, an old school DVD player, you could play videos on here through that input. If you had a rear camera, you could see the rear view on this screen. If you had a front camera in your car, you could have that screen displayed. Now, another interesting feature that I was not able to test on this car is the steering learning ability. Some cars have buttons on the steering, and this radio supports the ability to learn when you press a button to perform a function on the radio. But I imagine that this functionality is going to depend from car to car, whether it functions or not, and whether your car has buttons on the steering wheel or not. Like mine doesn't have it, so I can't even test that functionality. But I like that they gave us that ability to program them if we wanted to. And in the settings menu, there's a lot of customization that we can do. We can change things like the language, the time, the equalizer settings on there. We can select which of the phones is the default phone to connect to, and we can pair and non-pair devices. And we can also change advanced settings. Just look at the amount of customization that you have on this unit. Quite a bit of things that you can change. Now, the themes right here is what I use to set a custom background. So same thing, I put a little image on this little USB drive, which is Baby Yoda, and I use that to set the background, not only for the startup screen, but I also change the background for the normal menu. Now, if you do have a front or rear camera, you can select park line, and that will enable guidelines that will show on the screen and will help you as you're parking. So that's pretty cool that they included that option. So overall, the Ousmin AA Pro is a very impressive unit, especially given its price point. It brings a lot of new technology and features that are available on the newer cars and makes it available for folks like myself who want to retrofit this into their older cars. So not only do we get a sound upgrade from the stereo going to an aftermarket unit like this, but we also get all the benefits of CarPlay, Android Auto, mirroring the device directly on the screen, and the ability to customize it. I love how we can put a background on it. So I remember, guys, I have put a link in the description down below if you guys want to look at this unit further or acquire one for yourself. And you also may have noticed that I did not spend a lot of time talking about the installation of the unit, and that is because I wanted to spend as much time covering the features of the stereo more than the installation process. The installation process is going to vary from car to car. However, if you happen to own a Toyota Corolla and you want to see that installation video, I have placed a link in the description down below where I go into greater detail on how this unit was installed. So if you guys have any other questions regarding the unit, its features, or the general installation process, please put that in the comments down below. And if you found any part of this video helpful, please hit the thumbs up button to support the channel, and stay tuned as I have a lot more cool gadgets and other car accessories coming up. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.